Today's episode is delivered to you in an audiobook format. Our focus today is the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. Clear's central idea is that big changes are the result of many tiny, consistent actions, rather than single, grand gestures. But there's more to it than just starting small. According to Clear, every aspect of our behavior, from how we wake up in the morning to how we approach our goals, is guided by deeply ingrained habits. Change those habits, and you change the trajectory of your entire life. In this narration, we'll explore the core lessons of atomic habits, discuss how seemingly minor tweaks in your everyday routine can result in significant transformations, and share quotes from the book that highlight the author's most compelling insights. Clear believes that small daily actions accumulate over time into outcomes that can either lead us to success or keep us stuck in place. One of his central claims is, habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. He uses this metaphor because just as money grows exponentially in a savings account, our repeated behaviors, no matter how tiny, multiply and compound in effectiveness over weeks, months, and years. Yet, most of us don't notice our habits until we feel stuck or disappointed with where we are in life. By then, harmful routines might have taken root so firmly that the idea of change feels overwhelming. To help break down this process, Clear explains that a habit is formed in a cycle of 4 steps: cue, craving, response, and reward. A cue is a trigger, something in your environment that signals the start of a routine. A craving is the motivational force pushing you to take action. The response is the actual habit you perform, and the reward is the sense of satisfaction you get from doing it. He writes, "The cue triggers your brain to initiate a behavior. The craving is the motivational force behind every habit. The response is the actual habit you perform, and the reward is the end goal of every habit." This process repeats until it becomes automatic, often so automatic that you may not even realize you're following a script of your own making. Clear argues that small improvements don't just lead to incremental progress, they have a profound cumulative effect, much like interest in a bank account. If you can improve by just 1% each day, you might barely notice the change on a daily basis. But over a year, that tiny increment repeated many times can produce dramatic results. He says, "Getting 1% better every day counts for a lot in the long run." This is a departure from the usual self-improvement approach where people aim for massive leaps, losing a large amount of weight in a month, writing a novel in a few weeks, or completely altering their lifestyle overnight. Clear warns that while ambitious goals can initially spark enthusiasm, they often lead to burnout or disappointment if we don't have a steady system to rely on when motivation fades. And that's another key point. Clear's emphasis on the power of systems, rather than relying on sheer willpower or motivation. He states, "You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems." In his view, it's not enough to say you want to read more, or exercise more, or eat healthier. You need to build an environment, both physical and mental, that makes those habits easier and more obvious. If your goal is to exercise regularly, place your workout clothes where you can't miss them. If you want to eat better, remove junk food from your kitchen and replace it with healthy snacks that are just as easy to grab. If you want to write daily, create a space that's welcoming and free of distractions. This approach ensures that when your initial enthusiasm wanes, the environment you've set up is still nudging you toward the choices you genuinely want to make. Perhaps the heart of atomic habits lies in the idea that it's more effective to focus on identity-based habits rather than outcome-based habits. Clear says, "Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. Instead of thinking, I want to run a marathon, you think, I am a runner. Instead of, I want to write a book, you affirm, I am a writer. By shifting your perspective from a single accomplishment to an ongoing identity, each small habit becomes a reaffirmation of that new identity. If you view yourself as a runner, going for a 10-minute jog isn't just about logging miles, it's about embodying the identity of a person who runs. Each time you lace up your shoes, you cast another vote for I am a runner, strengthening that self-image until it feels less like a goal and more like a natural part of who you are. Clear outlines what he calls the 4 laws of behavior change. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. These laws help us build good habits and break bad ones. To illustrate, if you want to build a habit of practicing guitar, 1. Make it obvious. Keep your guitar in the middle of the room instead of hidden away in a closet. 2. Make it attractive. Pair practice time with something you enjoy, like sipping your favorite tea while you tune up. 3. Make it easy. Start with just 5 minutes of practice, rather than trying to master entire songs. 4. Make it satisfying. Track your progress or reward yourself with a short break once you've done your session. He writes, a habit must be established before it can be improved. That's why you start small. You're not trying to become Jimi Hendrix overnight. You're simply setting yourself up to practice regularly, a little at a time. Once the habit is in place, you can gradually scale up. But what about breaking bad habits? Clear explains that the same 4 laws apply in reverse. Make it invisible, make it unattractive, make it difficult, and make it unsatisfying. For example, if you spend too much time on social media, you can make it invisible by deleting the app from your phone. You can make it unattractive by reminding yourself how mindless scrolling saps your energy. You can make it difficult by logging out every time, so you have to type your password again. And you can make it unsatisfying by sharing your progress with someone who will hold you accountable if you slip back. He believes that we often fail to break bad habits because we give ourselves too many chances to indulge them. By putting hurdles in our own way, we discourage the behavior we want to avoid. In the book, Clear offers another tactic known as habit stacking. The idea is to attach a new habit to an existing routine you already follow. For instance, if you have a stable morning habit of making coffee, you can stack a new behavior onto it. After I brew my coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. The coffee making is your established routine, and the meditation is the new behavior you're trying to build. He says, the key to habit stacking is to tie your desired behavior into something you already do each day. Over time, your morning coffee habit automatically triggers your 1-minute meditation, and this can grow into a longer meditation practice once it's firmly established. One of the biggest pitfalls in adopting new habits is when people don't see immediate results, and Clear acknowledges this phenomenon. He talks about the plateau of latent potential, a period when it feels like your hard work isn't paying off. Picture an ice cube in a chilly room. If the temperature is 25 degrees Fahrenheit and you heat it to 26, 27, 28, and so on, nothing appears to change. But when the room hits 32 degrees, the ice cube begins to melt. Clear points out that many of us quit on our habits at, say, 31 degrees, when we're just one step away from seeing a transformation. He says, all big things come from small beginnings, reminding us to trust that our consistent actions will bear fruit, even when it seems like progress is invisible. Another poignant lesson from the book is the danger of motion versus action. Clear states, when you're in motion, you're planning and strategizing and learning. Those are all good things, but they don't produce a result. In other words, reading about how to do push-ups, researching the best workout plan, or organizing a perfect writing schedule might feel productive, but it's not the same as actually doing push-ups, actually working out, or actually writing. We often stay in motion because it's safer than taking action. Action risks failure or discomfort, but it's also the only path to real results. Clear encourages a bias toward action, however small, because movement in the real world is what transforms knowledge into real change. Because Atomic Habits puts so much emphasis on routines, Clear also talks about the powerful role our environment plays. Environment is the invisible hand that shapes human behavior, he says. Think about how supermarkets place candy at the checkout lines, or how social media apps design their interfaces to keep you scrolling. These setups are not coincidences. They're designed environments. We can apply the same principle to our own lives by carefully arranging our surroundings to favor better habits. If you want to learn a new language, leave your study materials on your desk so they're the first thing you see. If you always forget to drink water, place a full glass in the spot where you usually sit. By customizing our environment, we make it easier to act in alignment with the person we want to become. Clear addresses a common criticism of small habits. Some people dismiss them as too trivial to matter. In response, he explains that the cumulative effect is what really changes things. He writes, "Success is the product of daily habits, not once-in-a-lifetime transformations." If you do one push-up, that might seem insignificant. But if that one push-up every day eventually morphs into a full workout routine, the effect on your health could be enormous a year from now. The small habit is simply the seed from which the bigger change can grow. He also warns that every habit has to align with the identity you want to adopt. If your habits conflict with your self-image, you'll feel constant internal friction. For instance, if you see yourself as someone who loves junk food, but you're trying to follow a strict diet, you might be able to keep it up for a few days, but eventually your identity will drag you back to old behaviors. That's why he emphasizes identity-based change over outcome-based change. He says, "The ultimate form of intrinsic motivation is when a habit becomes part of your identity. Once you internalize that you're the type of person who prioritizes health, it becomes more natural to make healthy choices, and you'll do so without as much conscious effort." One challenge is learning how to measure progress without becoming obsessed with numbers. Clear suggests finding ways to track habits that don't overwhelm you, like placing a marble in a jar every time you complete a workout, or marking an X on a calendar. The key is to observe the pattern of consistency, rather than fixate on flawless execution. He remarks that habits are not a finish line to be crossed. They're a lifestyle to be lived. If you slip up, that's okay. It's about getting back on track quickly. Missing once is an accident. Missing twice is the start of a new habit, he notes. This perspective can help curb the all-or-nothing mindset that derails many people when they skip a day. As the book progresses, Clear addresses how to maintain momentum when the initial burst of excitement wears off. He advises making your habits more challenging once they become routine. Otherwise, boredom can creep in. By slightly increasing the difficulty or speed of your chosen habit, you push yourself to keep growing while still building on the foundation you've laid. For instance, if you're used to running 2 miles, try running them a bit faster or adding an extra half mile. Clear quotes a story of a weightlifter who asked, "If we just got 1% stronger each day, where would we be?" The answer is obviously far ahead of those who never challenge themselves. That question underscores his belief in slow and steady progression. One of the book's strongest appeals is that it empowers readers to believe change is within reach. He cites countless success stories, from athletes who refine their training by small margins to people who drop bad habits by rearranging their lives in tiny but impactful ways. Another line from Clear is, "Small habits don't add up, they compound." This viewpoint is especially comforting when you realize you don't have to make a dramatic life overhaul in a single weekend. You can just tweak your routine bit by bit, adjusting and refining until your daily reality reflects the person you've wanted to be all along. Toward the end, Clear takes time to remind us that long-term consistency trumps short-term intensity. He says, "The most powerful outcomes are often delayed. This is why we see people lose a chunk of weight but then gain it back. The dramatic diet was intense, but not sustainable. In contrast, the small, consistent changes might look unimpressive at first, but they have a better chance of enduring for years." He urges us to reframe our thinking so that we value continual progress more than quick fixes. In a sense, it's a rejection of the modern preference for instant gratification. Instead, it celebrates a quieter, more reliable path to personal growth. Clear also recognizes the emotional dimension of habit change, acknowledging that sometimes we hold on to bad habits because they fulfill an emotional need, even if it's short-lived or ultimately harmful. The solution is not to rely on guilt or self-loathing, but to create alternative positive habits that fulfill the same need. If you tend to eat junk food when stressed, you might substitute a calming activity like a short meditation or a phone call with a supportive friend. By paying attention to the cue, stress, the craving, relief, the response, eating junk, and the reward, feeling comforted, you can rewire the pattern to respond to stress with something healthier. In the final sections of Atomic Habits, Clear circles back to the idea that improvement is infinite. There is no final summit where you declare your habits perfect and never change them again. Rather, life is a continuous series of micro-adjustments. He encourages us to think less about reaching a single goal and more about the journey of perpetually refining who we are. Because if you stop growing, you risk sliding back into old patterns. In that spirit, he ends with the notion that each day is an opportunity to either reinforce the identity you desire or slip away from it, and the choice is always in your hands. By weaving scientific research, illustrative examples, and straightforward language, Atomic Habits has resonated with countless readers because it makes the process of habit formation and transformation feel approachable. You don't need special talents or unstoppable willpower. You just need to learn how habits really work. Then apply that knowledge consistently with patience and self-compassion. The results, as Clear shows, can be life-changing. So, to recap the essence of Atomic Habits, focus on tiny, consistent improvements that add up over time, prioritize environment and system design over willpower, reorient your habits around the identity you want to adopt, and trust that slow progress is the surest path to lasting change. You should be far more concerned with your current trajectory than with your current results, Clear reminds us. That line is perhaps the simplest distillation of why small actions done repeatedly can have such a monumental impact. If you can commit to that idea, the future becomes a place where big dreams are not lofty fantasies, but the natural culmination of your daily choices. Let's bring all this to a close. The beauty of Atomic Habits is that it gives you the confidence to start small and the understanding to keep going. As we've discussed, Clear sees each habit as a stepping stone toward the person you're meant to become, and each day as an opportunity to reinforce that emerging identity. If you walk away from this talk remembering one thing, let it be that small changes, done consistently, are anything but trivial. They can transform your health, your relationships, your work, and most importantly, your view of who you are. Thank you for joining me for this deep dive into James Clear's Atomic Habits. I hope you found insights that spark your curiosity and motivate you to try one small habit change this week. If you do, remember to set up a system that makes the habit obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. And keep in mind that each time you show up for that habit, you're casting a vote for who you want to be. As Clear says, true long-term thinking is goalless thinking. It's not about any single accomplishment. It is about the cycle of endless refinement and continuous improvement. So pick that one habit to work on, take it step by step, and watch how quickly those tiny gains stack up. You might be surprised at what you can achieve when you stop overhauling your life in a rush and instead choose to shape it gradually, one small habit at a time.